Hey guys, it's Mrs. Villa, and I'm back again, as promised, with one of my absolute favorite stories. The title of the story is Substitute Creature, and it's by a really wonderful author named Gall. He's also the author for the Dino Trucks books, so I'm not sure if you've read any of those, but if not, you should check him out. He's wonderful. So this story is, the genre is fiction, or you could say fantasy. And so if it's fiction or fantasy, we know that it's something that didn't happen. Notice I didn't say realistic fiction. This is not something that could really happen, okay? But the author's purpose then would be to entertain you, okay? And there's also a really good lesson that we learn in this story about being honest. And so as Mrs. Ville is reading, I want you to see if you can think about some of the reasons why it's so important to be honest and the consequences of, in this story, what happens when you're not honest. Okay. And these illustrations are awesome, so I'm going to come in quickly. Okay. Dear students, I will be unable to teach our class due to a serious case of frazzled nerves. I've asked a rather special someone to make sure you are all well taken care of while I'm gone. And I certainly wouldn't suggest playing any tricks on him. Have a happy Halloween and good luck, Miss Jenkins. And guys, look at her hair. And I want you to look really closely at her shoelaces, her feet on the floor. And we see some pencils in the desks, and people drew things on the board. There's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in there that said lunch today. So it doesn't look like her class was being very well behaved. And so she said, I'm done. You've got a new teacher coming in. And somebody who's not your normal teacher is called a substitute, right? Okay, and look very carefully at the illustrations in the beginning. It looks like what season? Yeah, it looks like fall or autumn. We see some pumpkins on the porch and the leaves falling from the trees. Ooh, I notice a shadow. And I also notice very, very strange, some kind of character in this garbage can. This is important, especially at the end of the story when we make some comparisons. All right. Substitute Creature by Gall. Okay, get comfy, guys, okay? On a windswept day in late October, the students of Miss Jenkins' class arrived to a surprise at school. Substitute teacher today, announced Peyton. Amanda giggled and scribbled on the chalkboard. Luke performed a circus act. Gavin laughed like a mad scientist. Then, at precisely 8 o'clock, the door to the classroom creaked open. The substitute entered the room. Ooh, guys, look at when the door opened. Good morning to all. My name's Mr. Creacher. Miss Jenkins has asked me to step in as teacher. She claims that this class has grown quite out of hand. So I'm here to warn you, we're taking a stand. If you're plotting some mischief, please don't even try. In the back of my head, you'll find more than one eye. Luke drew an eye on his own forehead. Mr. Creature didn't think that was funny at all. And we can tell that that's Luke, right? Because it said he drew an eye on his forehead. Oh man, look at him. He's like, ah! Do you see there's a little tack right there? It's really hard to see, but a tack is like a sharp thing that you can use to stick papers on a board. And this kid right here is trying to put it by his butt. So when he sits, that's why his hand's out and he's saying, I've got eyes in the back of my head. Attention all scamps, all rascals and fools. For 49 years, I've visited schools. I've collected some tales whose lessons are grave about boys and girls who didn't behave. They'll give you the goosebumps, they'll shiver your skin. Now pay strict attention. It's time we begin." And with that, Mr. Creacher reached into his bag. Then he pulled out a tattered file. "Keith, case number 5B27. First we meet Keith, a hungry young lad. Snacking on glue was a habit he had. He ate so much glue, no amount was too much. Then he started to stick to all he would touch." Guys, ew, are you supposed to eat glue? No. Soon, no one could find the boy underneath all of the objects that stuck to poor Keith. Oh, I see his eye. Yeah, everything he touched stuck to him. Peyton's huge backpack fell over, and a dozen glue sticks rolled out. Mr. Creature looked very unhappy. "Have you heard about Sarah?" Sarah, case number 724C. "She crammed all her stuff inside of her desk, but enough was enough. Her desk was so full that it started to shake. It rattled and lurched like a minor earthquake. Kids ran for their lives and the teachers threw fits. And then Sarah's desk blew itself into bits." Ah, here's a Barbie head. Ah, she had way too much stuff in her desk. This looks like my daughter Rosemary's room. Okay. Amanda passed a note to Luke, but Mr. Creature snatched it from her. Kylie, case number 274B. Kylie, the artist, was always the best at drawing when she should be taking a test. When a dragon she drew looked so real it blew smoke, the children suspected it might be a joke. But the dragon on paper then leapt from the page. It tore through the room in a flame-throwing rage. So the dragon she was drawing when she was supposed to be taking a test actually came to real life. It came out of her paper. These are some things that tell us that this story is a fantasy, right? And not realistic fiction. Are you not yet convinced? Did I notice a yawn? In case you're in doubt, do let me go on. Yikes, look at how scared they look. And remember, they didn't call him substitute teacher. They called him substitute creature because he's not a human, right? He's got some interesting stories. Zach, case number 572B. Listen up. Have you heard of the daydreamer Zach? His mind wandered off while he took out his snack. So he failed to see the open cage door, and he simply ignored the little tracks on the floor. And no one else noticed in time to shout freeze that the sandwich he had was made of hamster and cheese. Ah! Luke jumped when he felt a nibble inside his pocket. Mr. Creature opened another file. Kate, case number 7299A. Kate always carried her backpack with pride. It made a great place for her monkey to hide. Now, everyone knows the no pets allowed rule. When her monkey escaped, it wreaked havoc at school. Then the children all thought that they should bring a pet too. Soon the school was a mess and it smelled like a zoo. Why do you guys think that Mr. Creature keeps telling the students these stories about things that happened to other kids who weren't listening? Yeah, I think so too. I think he's telling them to kind of scare them and get them to see that it didn't work out well for anybody who wasn't listening. And what about patterns? Has anybody noticed any patterns in this story? We know that every page he has a new case file so far, but then there's also a rhyming pattern with the words. Do you guys hear that? Yeah, me too. Gavin quietly tied Amanda's shoelaces together. Mr. Creacher scowled, then continued, Hank, case number 114B1. Now this impish fellow, whose nickname was Hank, like most little boys, loved to pull a good prank. He brought in a guppy to enliven the class, but in days it grew teeth that could chomp through glass. Oh my gosh, look at that. It wouldn't stop growing. Its skin became dark. Now Hank really wished he'd not brought in a shark. Dun, 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 dun. Mr. Creature paused and gazed upon the silent room one last time. Then he reached into his case one last time. Chris, case number 55923. And last we have Chris, a mischievous sort, with a fondness for thieving, I'm sad to report. What does it mean if you're thieving? A fondness for thieving. Yeah, it means you like to steal. You like to take things that are not yours. And so that's what that kid Chris liked to do. It seems the poor boy liked to it seems like the poor boy liked to trick for his treats. Dressed like a monster, he scared kids for sweets. But then he stole candy. Guys, look right here. Then he stole candy from a magical gnome. Now the trick was on Chris. He could never go home. Never? Amanda gulped. Why? Whispered Peyton. Look at his costume. Look at Chris's costume. And in his hand, he's taking candy from the magical gnome. What does Chris's costume look like? When he took off his costume, Chris saw the gnome's curse. He had 7 green legs and something much worse. A note explained how for the rest of his days, he'd teach other children about wicked ways. And there's a note from the gnome in his candy bucket. It says, Dear Chris, I'm sorry to tell you this, but... And that was the note that the gnome... Look, you can see him in the mirror, guys. Right there. That the gnome left him saying, hey, now you're stuck like this in the costume that you wore, and now you're going to have to go around and tell people about naughty things and why it's not okay. So that was his punishment for stealing candy. So he repaid his debt, a creature he'd be. And by now you should know that monster is me. So that was substitute Creature that stole that candy. And until he repaid his debt, that means till he made up for all the candy that he stole, he was going to be stuck like that. You guys think that's a good punishment? Yeah. Cool, said Luke. I'm sorry, Mr. Creature, said Amanda. You're the best substitute ever, said Gavin. Mr. Creature spied the clock on the wall. It all happened here half a century ago at this very school. I thought you should know. Goodbye and good luck. My time here is done. I leave you a gift. For each there is one. So he's leaving him each a piece of candy. The students of Miss Jenkins' class thanked Mr. Creature for the candy and promised never to torment their teacher again. Then Mr. Creature was gone. Outside, Mr. Creature looked in his case and saw that he had one last piece of candy he had stolen. so many years ago. He just needed someone to give it to. Then he noticed a small old man nearby who wore a funny, familiar hat. Mr. Creature quietly slipped the candy into the man's pocket. Is that just any man? Who is that, guys, that he's giving the candy to? Yeah, it looks like the gnome to me, too. Yeah. As the substitute creature walked slowly down the windy street, he noticed a sweet smell in the autumn air. It was a smell he remembered from long ago. Oh, these illustrations are amazing, guys. Take a look. His tentacles tingled as the smell pulled him forward, and the world started to spin around him. He began to run to a small house at the end of the street. Guys, look as he's running, like what's happening. His body's changing. And look, now he's a regular boy again. There, his bike was still leaning by the step, and his dog was still waiting on the lawn. Everything was as if he had never been gone. Chris was home, and he was just in time for a Halloween treat. Oh my gosh, look at the cookies his mom made him. So why did Chris turn back into a human again? Yeah, because he repaid his debt. He returned all the candy and gave all the candy that he stole during that Halloween party. He gave it away. So he was stuck as that substitute creature until he made up for his mistakes. Yeah. And then this is really cool. If you look very closely here, you can see that now it looks more like it's the springtime, right, guys? Not fall anymore. The leaves are not falling off the trees anymore. You see, instead of a creature there, look, there's a boy on his bike with his dog. Now let's go back to the beginning picture. Let's see. Here you see the shadow of the substitute creature with the gnome, and you can tell that the season is different. There's pumpkins for Halloween. So all that time, the illustrator lets us know just through the illustrations how much time has passed. So awesome. The pictures are so important, guys. They give us so much information. So anyway, Mrs. Villa absolutely loves Chris Gall. If you're interested in any more of his stories, they give us some titles over here. This one is called America the Beautiful, Dear Fish, There's Nothing to Do on Mars, Dino Trucks, and then there's The Revenge of the Dino Trucks. And then this is Chris Gall when he was a little boy. So I challenge you to maybe think of your own fiction or fantasy story and write about something that could teach other kids a lesson too. All right, my loves, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I look forward to reading to you again soon.